Imagine you receive 20 invoices in your inbox on a daily basis. Normally, you'd spend hours manually copying invoice numbers, dates, vendor names, line items, and other fields into an Excel spreadsheet. What if I told you that just with one click you could extract all of this data automatically and export it neatly into a CSV file? In today's video, I will show you exactly how to build this AI Invoice Extractor so that there's no more manual data entry. In my previous video, we created this AI Invoice Data Extractor which allows users to upload one invoice at a time, and after this it would print all the information from the invoice into JSON structure just like this. So today we're going to take this project even further by using the same logic that we implemented last time, but then what we're going to change today is instead of printing this just so people can see it, we're going to use this information and put it into a CSV, and we're going to create this file so that users can basically plug it into their CRM or do some further processing with the CSV before they can basically finish their task. If you haven't watched my previous video, I'm going to add a link somewhere on the screen so you can go back and watch this. And in today's video, basically we need to create a new project in PyCharm. I've already created one called AI Data Extractor Part 2. And in here we've got a bunch of files. So the first one is called app.py, then we have keys.py, and after that we've got a folder which is called templates, and then inside this templates folder we've got index.html. And then we have some, basically we have another folder which is called uploads, and this is where all the basically exports are being saved. So when we upload multiple invoices and then when we hit process or extract data, then the output will be saved into this uploads folder. Let's start with analyzing app.py because this is the most important module in this application since it creates the entire page and it does all the processing for us. So what we need to do is we need to import OS, JSON, and then we need to import Flask. So you need to install Flask, PyPDF2, and OpenAI. And last but not least, you need to create an OpenAI API key. So if you don't have an API key for OpenAI, you can go to platform.openai.com. You can sign up, and after this you can generate your own API key. So what we do next is we create a Flask application, and after this we're adding like a variable to the config. And then this is called upload folder, and then we set this to uploads. After this we use the OS library to create this folder if it doesn't exist. And after this we create an instance of the OpenAI class, and then we pass our OpenAI API key. And this is the CSV header, so this contains all the fields which we're going to extract from the invoices, and this is the header that will be basically added into our CSV. Next, what we have is a few Python functions which are used for processing the data. So the first one is called extract text from PDF. So this function takes a PDF file path as an input. And then what happens is we create an instance of this PDF reader class. We pass the PDF path, and then what this returns is actual reader. And then we use this reader to go through all the individual pages in this file. And then we extract the text from that file, and we append all the text from each individual page. And finally we return the full text as a string. So the next function is called extract invoice data. So this takes text as input. So basically this text comes from this function, and then we call the next function which is extract invoice data. So this function is responsible for calling OpenAI, and this is the system prompt that we use. So you can copy and paste this system prompt. I'm going to add a link to it in the description below. And once we have our prompt, then the next step is to actually query OpenAI. And for doing this, we use client.chat.completions.create. And then we use the model GPT-4o mini. Then we have two messages. We've got the system message, which is the system prompt that's defined just up here. And then we've got a user message, which is the text that we've extracted from our PDF. We're setting the temperature to 0. Finally, what we're doing is we're extracting the response from calling OpenAI. So OpenAI is going to return a response in JSON format. And in here, we're just loading this response and converting it into a nicely structured dictionary. After this, we've got a function that is responsible for converting strings into float numbers. And last but not least, we've got the only root in our Flask application, which is the index root. And it has two different methods. It can process a post method, like a post request, and then it can also process a get request. So for the post request, this is where we do all the processing when the files have been uploaded. So what happens in here is when we have a post request, we get all the different files that have been uploaded by using the request, and then we do request.files get list and all the different invoices. So what happens next is basically we go through each individual file, and in here we're saving it locally on our machine. So you can see here that we're basically joining two different paths. So we've got the upload folder, and then we get the file name of each individual file, and then this becomes the file path. So what happens is basically we save that into our upload folder. And what we do next is we call this function, which is extract text from PDF, and then we pass the file path. So what this is going to do is it's going to go through all the pages in our invoice. It's going to extract the text, and then it will return it. So next, what happens is we're passing this text into the next function, which is extract invoice data. And then what this is going to do is it's going to query OpenAI. It's going to pass all the information from our invoice, and then the data will be returned in structured format. And after this, what we have is we have a check. So if we have any data, then what we do is we go through all the individual line items, because usually we have more than one line items. After this, what we do is we have this list where we extract all the information from our invoice. So it contains the invoice number, the date, the vendor, the description, quantity, price, and finally we calculate the total price for this line item. So once we build this list, then what we do is we convert this into a string, and this string is comma separated. And the reason for this is because we're going to save this information into a CSV file, and CSV files are comma separated type of files. So we basically create this comma separated string, and we're adding it to the results list. So after this, what we do is we check if we have results. So in this case, each result will be one entry from our invoice. And what we do in here is basically, again, we're referring to the upload folder, and then we're passing this name invoices.csv. So we create this CSV path, and then we're opening a file. So we open this file, and then we're writing the CSV header, which we defined in the very beginning of this file. And then what we do is we iterate over each individual result, and then basically this gives us each unique row. And then what we do is we basically write each row into our CSV file, and then we're adding a new line towards the end. And finally, what we do is once the file is ready, we just basically download it as an attachment. So what we're going to look at next is our index.html page. It's very basic, very simplistic. If we just go to the body section of this page, you can see that it contains just one container, and inside this container we've got h1 header, then we have one paragraph, and then we have our form. So this form is responsible for basically getting all the uploads. So you can see that it has an input, and this input takes multiple files. So you can see the input is of type file, and then it takes multiple inputs. And last but not least, we've got this button, which is of type submit. So when the users click on this button, then this is going to send a request to our backend, and this is going to hit the index root. So you can see here we've got our index root, and it's responsible for processing get and post request. So in this case, when users hit submit, then it's going to create a post request, and then it's going to send that to this endpoint. At this point, we should be in a good position to run our application and test it out. We're going to use two different invoices as an input, and we will see if it works as expected. So let's go ahead, run our application. And then what we need to do is we need to open this URL. So this is our starting page. So you can see that this is very simplistic, very basic, but it does the job. So in here you've got the option to choose files, or you can just drag and drop the files that you have. So either way it works. So in this case I'll just click on this button, choose files, and I've got two different invoices. I can select both of them, and once they're selected you can hit the upload button. So now you can see that it says that two files have been added. And what we need to do next is we just need to hit this button, which is process invoices, and this is going to send a request to our basically endpoint. It's going to extract all the text, and finally it's going to add this to our CSV file. So you can see that our invoices.csv file was created successfully, and now we can just double click on this, and you can see the data. It has been exported successfully from the two individual invoices. So you can see that we have this invoice which contains 4 different line items, and then we have this second invoice which contains just one line item. So for each line item you can see the quantity, and you can see the individual price, and finally you can see the total price for this line item. So you can notice that the two invoices, they have different currencies, and this is also reflected correctly. So the first invoice has prices in pounds, then the second invoice has prices in dollars, and you can see that the dates are kind of standardized. So they follow the European format. So first is the day, then the month, and then the year. So you can tweak that because this is actually a line in the system prompt which goes to OpenAI. So you can format the dates in the way that you want. And the same applies for any other field. Like if you want to tweak its format or appearance, then you can definitely do that in the way you want. And just to make a quick comparison, just to show you that this actually worked as expected. So if I open this invoice, you can see that this is the basic invoice which contains just one line item. So in here we're saying that we have a web design line item, and then the quantity is 1 and the price is 85. So if I just put this down there, you can see the date. So the date is 25th of January 2016, 25th of January 2016. Then you've got the name of the vendor, the line item name, the quantity, and then the actual price. And now we can quickly look at the more complex invoice, which contains 4 different line items. So let me just minimize this. And in here you can see again, you've got professional consultation, and then the quantity is 5 and the price is 100. So then you have document processing fee, quantity, unit price, and so on. So you can see that it successfully extracted the data from both invoices. It structured the data into JSON format, and then after this, what we did with this data is we created a single CSV file that contains all the information. And you can see that it took like a few seconds to extract all the data from each individual invoice, send it to OpenAI, format it in the way that we want, and finally we created this CSV file. And you can see that this can save a lot of time, because if you do this manually, then just for this invoice with 4 line items, you're probably going to spend like maybe a few minutes just to copy and paste all the information from the PDF. So I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get access to the code behind this video, you can join my school community. The link should be down below in the description. It's completely free and you don't need to pay anything. Thank you very much for your time, and see you in the next video.